Hello and welcome to Hugh's Reviews, the place for movie views and spoiler clues. Wait a minute, something's coming in over the newswire.
This just in, the amazing Spider-Man is battling the notorious Doc Ock in the middle of Times Square. We take you live to the scene.
Mwahahahaha! Unless the city pays me $5 million, I will detonate my nuclear device! You will never find it in time, Spider-Man!
What's up, Doc?
Hey, when we're done here, can I borrow those arms? I got a drain that will not unclog. Oh boy. My titanium alloy arms will be your doom, Spider-Man! You will never find the bomb! You mean this one? Catch! No! But how? You could never have gotten to the Empire State Building and back in time! Empire State, huh? Boing! Thanks for the tip, Docky Poo. Now that you're all trussed up like a Thanksgiving turkey, enjoy Rikers. And my phony bomb. Curse you, Spider-Man! Woo! Well, that was thrilling, wasn't it, folks? And quite apropos, because today we are talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. Strap on your web shooters, kiddos. We're going swinging. The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. Peter Parker, given abilities beyond those of mere men by the bite of a radioactive spider and transformed into a hero through tragedy, was always with me. He is my favorite superhero. Strong, smart, funny, noble, and flawed. A kid trying to be a superhero beyond the ken of his years. He resonated with me, and many others, in a way a billionaire playboy or a nigh-omnipotent godman never could. He may be able to throw a car, but at his core he's still a nerd being bullied and laughed at, trying to pay his bills and do what's right for his family and loved ones. It hits a bit closer to home for a lot of fans, and so it makes his powers and adventures a better fantasy fulfillment because it seems more possible than being born into privilege or being a morally perfect and invulnerable being. So, bear that in mind. I am an unabashed Spidey fanboy. There are huge spoilers for Avengers Endgame in this review, so if you haven't seen that movie, then turn back now. For the rest of you, I say, Excelsior! Since the events in Endgame, the world is coming to terms with what they now call the blip. Those who were dusted have returned, and some of Earth's mightiest heroes are gone. Thor is off with the Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America is out of the game, and Tony Stark, the invincible Iron Man, is no more. Peter Parker, having come back to a world that has moved on without him, is trying to pick up the pieces with his friends and his Aunt May, all of whom were likewise blipped. While on a class trip to Europe, he and his classmates are attacked by a horrible monster and saved by the valiant Quentin Beck, codename Mysterio. A man of wondrous abilities come from another world to defend ours against the evils that plague it. Recruited by Nick Fury and partnered with Beck to battle a new foe, Peter Parker is torn between his legacy as the presumed successor to Stark's legacy, his heroic responsibilities, and his desire to live a life as a normal teenager. Anyone who has ever read the Spider-Man comics knows where the Mysterio plot is going. Those who haven't, do not feel cheated because Far From Home has you specifically in mind. For long-standing fans, the way Mysterio's origins are slightly remastered for the movie will come as a nice 21st century update and will surprise many of the newbies. To the true believers, as Stan the Man would put it, I acknowledge that a lot of the movie will be a boring wait-for-it trek with a slightly more than lackluster twist that we all saw coming. But if you can divorce yourself from your expectations, it's not a bad movie. It's an okay movie. How to talk about this without ruining it for the new fans? Look, if you're listening to this, then expect I may let something slip. If you're an old hand with the web slinger, then I'm sorry, but I can't get too into depth. This is how a movie review works. Mysterio's powers were always based in a simple concept that I never found to be all that well fleshed out in the Spidey comics. He's goofy. Green tights, purple cape, a big goldfish bowl full of smoke on his head. He's a dork. I always thought, as many did, that Bruce Campbell would have been perfect for the part. Bombastic and over the top with a hint of dirty humor and a ton of ego. How the heck could Jake Gyllenhaal, as brilliant as he is, live up to those expectations? Well, the answer is by making Mysterio a more serious character with the same core. The way they retcon his origins into the rest of the Marvel movies is, yes, a contrived addition to the Avengers series, but, as some of us know, Mysterio was rarely taken all that seriously. Frankly, I'm shocked they thought they could get away with introducing this character. But what was always at the heart of the Mysterio Spider-Man storylines? The suspension of disbelief. In that respect, the movie does a decent job of breaking down said disbelief and making it believable within the pre-established universe of the Marvel franchise. There is reality, and there is illusion, and the breaking down and confusing of the two was the best part of any issue of the comics where these two characters met. And those elements are done very well here. Holland as Spider-Man isn't what some may wish him to be in this movie. The overwhelmed, awkward kid trying to go on a date or deal with bullies comes through, but he's not as quippy and carefree in costume as he should be. They did a better job with those elements in previous outings of the character. There is, however, an adolescent sweetness to him as Peter Parker that's charming. It's weird and uncomfortable in a realistic manner, and this is a better representation of the Pete-MJ dynamic than we've gotten in the other incarnations, as much as I acknowledge that hardcore fanboys will be annoyed by the changes made. Gyllenhaal as Mysterio is not the cheese fest that some would have hoped for. He is, however, upon deeper inspection, just the right level of swagger and pomp that makes his reveal more appropriate for the movie at hand. After all, he's the master of what? The hardcores will know. And that part, as it is played out in this movie, was done just right. We all expect great effects these days. They're taken for granted as much as the end credits stinger. Watching Spider-Man figure out how to defeat reality becoming unreal around him was awesome. At times it did become Michael Bay-esque in how hard to follow the action was, but in this context, I think that was the point. No, the twists and turns are not always good. In some places, they were downright insulting to anyone who has seen more than 3 movies. You're gonna figure out most of the shocking reveals long before they are revealed. Hey, spoiler clue? The villain is Syndrome from The Incredibles. He's almost literally Syndrome. All the guy needs is some buck teeth and a troll doll wig, and he's there. There were numerous nods and winks to Sam Raimi and his trilogy that came across as forced. Trains are used in a face-slamming manner to hint at the Doc Ock fight, and some of the moves and poses Spidey strikes are reminiscent of the 3 Raimi films and of fan-favorite issues of the comics. Hey, this is fan service being given its moment, and I appreciate that. It borrows and hints a little too much here and there, and I would not be surprised if the director was a fan of Raimi's, letting his personal fandom intrude on the current project. In truth, so much of the movie comes straight from the fanboy suggestion complaint box from Holland's last few outings as Spider-Man that the movie has a what did they whine about, let's shove it in and shut 'em up quality to it. The Vulture wasn't big enough? Hey, let's threaten the world. But getting small and personal was good in Homecoming, right? Alright, let's do that too. Homecoming wasn't funny enough? More comedy! We want to see Sam Jackson swear. Alright, here you go, ticket holders. Get the blender and chuck it all in, we've got a sequel to make. Alas, those suggestions fight for presence throughout the movie. They did make a solid film, but it was obvious they focus grouped things in just to stop the complaining fanboys from reiterating the same old snarky comments. The one thing they didn't fix in this movie was Spider-Man isn't as quick with the jokes as he was in Civil War. But the one thing they finally got right was Peter Parker's brains. In the last few movies, Spidey jumped around and used his powers, but it was all standard superhero stuff. Then he'd take off the mask and remind us how smart Parker is supposed to be by saying science stuff. So why didn't Spidey ever do something creative and smart with his powers to save the day other than, I webbed a thing? In Far From Home, we see him think through the problems facing him in real time and take down enemies using his brains as well as his brawn. Yes, he falls prey to the convenient idiocy at the whim of the plot, but it is at least excusable in that he's portrayed as a trusting and sweet 16-year-old kid, not that he's an actual moron. Far From Home also finally showed him using his Spidey sense, or as Aunt May calls it here, his Peter Tingle, to full advantage in sequences that longtime readers and film fans have wanted since this latest reboot was announced. And, as always, Holland is equally as good as Peter Parker and Spider-Man in a way we haven't seen an actor manage the hero's secret identity dual role since Christopher Reeves perfected it. Is this movie great? No. Is it fun? Yes. Most of the time. Is it as good as it could have been? Probably not. But considering all the factors in play, it's a better structured movie than Homecoming, even if it does lack some of that movie's novelty and freshness. Worth seeing in theaters for Spidey files like me, but probably okay to wait for on streaming for the rest of ya. And as a special treat for those in the know, JJ is back. Well, that is it tonight for Hugh's Reviews. I would like to personally dedicate this episode to Stan the Man Lee and Steve Ditko. Thanks for the memories, boys. And thank you to our underwriters at Moons of Vega Photography. To everybody else, happy viewing!